Glad to have you along with us today, folks. We got bad winds blowing in Mississippi, and we got some bad winds blowing in Washington, D.C., but let me bring you up to date on Mississippi's bad winds. You know, of course, that we are expecting the possibility of tornadoes later on today in our part of the state. Well, most of Mississippi, if you watch the Weather Channel, you'll see it on there. It's going to be just pretty horrific, and I've got a good roundup of it, and it's short, by Christina Kay of WAPT. She writes this on their website. Prior to the front, there's a frontal passage will have that. Gusts could exceed 40 miles per hour by mid-morning, making travel difficult. The worst of the weather arrives across the river counties between 1 and 2 p.m. Counties along Interstate 55 could see the worst of the weather arrive between 3 and 4 p.m. Eastern counties could have the worst of it between 4 and 5 p.m. The good news is, though, I'm put that in there. Storms will clear by 6 p.m. with strong gusts continuing after the storm. So it's going to be just a pretty nasty day. Most schools either are closed or will be closing with staggered schedules today, including, of course, JPS and Rankin and Madison County schools. They're all going to have staggered departures for either elementary or middle school, then high school. I think the latest time that anybody leaves is around 1:30 this afternoon. If you want to know, though, check with your school. So that's that. Now, last Friday, go back to last Friday, I stopped off and ran some errands on the way home from here. And I guess it was going on 11 o'clock. I made my last stop, got in my car, and I had my radio on Fox, and because you never know what's going to be going on, right? And I heard somebody yelling, and I thought, what is that? It's not a commercial. And I kept on going, I don't know who that guy was. But next I hear Trump and then Zelensky, and I'm like driving down the street going, whoo, like that, like you do. Just unbelievable, didn't we know? Absolutely disgusting situation. And we had just talked about all that with Dr. Glenn Antizzo on the show just, minutes before that happened, talking about what all this means, what's Zelensky going to do in D.C. and so on. And so now we have on our telephone, I've got Dr. Glenn Antizzo, and we're going to talk about what the heck is going on there. Welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mary. Good to be back here. Sorry to have to do it remote this morning, but I've got a class at 9:30.
Okay.
Where we'll probably be discussing some of it.
Probably. Yeah. Do you want to start with Friday? When did you see that? Did you get to see it live, or were you at school? Or?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the funny thing is, as is often the case, I stopped off to get some Krispy Kreme donuts after the show.
Smart.
And I came home to enjoy a cup of coffee and my donuts, and I put on the TV figuring that I would just be catching up on the news, and my mouth dropped open like it was on a hinge when I saw what happened. And, it was just unbelievable because I'd never seen anything like that before.
Nobody has. It's just crazy, unbelievable. And the situation. Did you agree with Trump that the guy needs to express some gratitude? I think Zelensky needs to take lessons from Bibi Netanyahu, who has been treated like dirt by people like Obama, into the kitchen entrance to the White House and all that kind of stuff, and eating in the kitchen while Obama goes and eats in the dining room and stuff. Treated like dirt, but he always is very grateful because he knows he needs our help, and he's grateful for it. And I don't think Biden was any great shakes to him because we know how the Bidens actually felt about Israel and so on. But this guy, Zelensky, what do you say?
Well, I take sort of a middle ground view on this. On one hand, yes, I think it was bad form for Zelensky to do what he did at the White House. You are a guest at somebody else's house in a sense. And I think you need to treat, that occasion with respect. If you thought it was a bad deal, then you probably shouldn't have gone to the White House in the first place, or at least not agreed, to have that kind of an open meeting. You could have met privately. Also, I got to say that, I heard him say, to the vice president, well, JD, what about, or, he addressed the vice president by his first name. And again, in a more formal setting, I think you show respect by referring to, the Donald Trump and J.D. Vance as Mr. President or Mr. Vice President. On the other hand, I thought that the public slapdown was a bit much on the part of the president, and it's even the Russians themselves issued a statement like a day later saying that it's becoming increasingly clear that our vision and the American vision seem to be aligning, and it's created a rift not just between us and the Ukrainians, but between us and our European allies. Although I must say, again, Zelensky did not do himself any favors by sticking around for enough time to do an interview with Brett Baer, and Brett Baer gave him 3 chances to sort of reel back in a little bit of what he said. Zelensky could have said, "Look, I let my passions get the better of me. I've got the interests of the people of my country, the very survival at stake, and so I said and did things that I regret, although I stand by my position." He could have easily said that, and that may have undone some of the damage, but he didn't. And I think that was a tremendous mistake, and I think he understands it now.
And now he's sort of he went running to the Europeans, and I'm thinking, oh, did he go running to them because he couldn't get from us what he wanted? Thought he could get it from them? I don't know. I didn't pay much attention over the weekend, I have to say. But now he's saying, well, this could go on for years, and I have read some stuff, Dr. Antizzo, over the weekend, and I wish I could tell you what I got this stuff from. That we know that it's a very corrupt government. I'm turning on this guy.
Yes.
Very corrupt government, and he likes all this money that he's getting, nice clothes and cars, and kind of living the good life. Well, yeah, why would I want to give that up, Mr. President? Why would he want to give that up? And I think that's disgusting. This does not have to go on for years, does it?
No, well, I mean, I would hope that it would not. I mean, how much more of their infrastructure can they afford to lose? But at the same time, that mineral deal, I think Trump is being a little naive if he thinks that the Russians would not still continue some sort of combat operations. My guess would be that they would probably avoid any place where mining operations were going on if we had people there. But I don't think that would necessarily stop missile attacks on Kiev or Lviv. I don't think it would necessarily preclude a naval blockade of Odessa. I still think that that this is not a great deal. And to be honest with you, while I agree with you, it is undoubtedly true that the Ukrainian government's got a lot of corruption. It's a matter of an order of magnitude of which evil you prefer. A corrupt government, which we have a tradition of supporting. Just look at South Vietnam, for example, or a authoritarian government that is bent on regional domination. Every time we pull back, every time we tell them they're not joining NATO, or their neighbors aren't joining NATO, the Russians invade someplace. They invaded Georgia and have taken over 2 regions in Georgia. They first took over Crimea. Now they've taken over the Donetsk region. Russia is a predatory country, and it's not that I don't agree with you, because I do. That government is corrupt. I think I even on the show talked about how there were some shells that they were supposed to get from some company that was owned, I think, by some oligarch in Ukraine, and they got the whatever it was, $100 million for the shells, and then they never got the shells.
Shells or shells?
You're absolutely right. I mean, people are pocketing the money, and they really need to clean up their act.
Well, I wonder if we need to be bothered with them at all. Well, now Trump has canceled giving them any kind of arms or any kind of military stuff for now. But I wonder, do we really need to be and I feel so sorry for the people. Those are the ones I just ache for, those people, because I remember when they were evacuating when this all started. They look like Americans going on vacation or something, puffer jackets and all that, and they look like a successful bunch of people, a successful middle class. I'm sure they're not all that way, but they seemed, from what we could see on TV, wonderful people. But do we need to be, I want to say, bothered with them? I mean, why can't they step in? Because I don't think we need to get in there anymore. I'm done, basically.
I think, Mary, that they are. Keir Starmer in Britain and Macron in France, I think, are working on some sort of a peace plan right now. I know, for example, Starmer had talked about sending 30,000 troops to enforce a neutral zone, or DMZ, between the Russian-held territory and Ukraine proper. And so, but here's the deal, though. What if the Russians violate that neutral zone? And French and British troops come into, a shooting match with the Russians. Does the NATO treaty get invoked, or since they have not directly attacked NATO territory, do we just let the British and the French fight on their own? And that's a question that I haven't heard answered. And another question I've never heard answered, I hear a lot of people on TV talking about, well, the Ukrainians need to just accept that they're not going to get this territory back. And there's a lot of truth in that. But at the same time, you don't have to have a recognition in international law. When the borders were adjusted after World War II, it took forever. Well, not forever, but it took until 1975 with the Helsinki Accords for there to be finally a recognition of the post-war boundaries as the Russians reset them after World War II, rather. So I think you could concede that the Russians have de facto control over the territory without recognizing it and leaving further negotiations open. But I haven't heard any suggestion of anything that the Russians are supposed to give up as part of this deal.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, they just sort of sit there and just look mean, I guess. I don't know. Haven't heard their point of view at all, to tell you the truth. If this comes to where the French and the Brits are sending troops, and maybe along the border, we talked about that the other day. There won't be a specific drawn border, but a border. They're there, and the Russians get feisty. What if we had some ships maybe out not far from Odessa, just there to be there in case we were needed, but not take an active role in this whole thing, because it's really getting muddled. And apparently they don't have elections when there's a war going on. That's what I think. Zelensky, is that true? Am I getting that right about?
Yeah, no, you're right, but that's not without precedent. I'm not as familiar with the Ukrainian constitution as I should be.
Well,
but my understanding is that during time of war, that elections do get suspended. But keep in mind, Churchill, didn't face an election during World War II, which lasted for 6 years, and so it's hard to have an election campaign when your country is being pounded into rubble. And on top of that, given the current situation, it would not surprise me in the least if the Russians engaged in election interference. If they, if they've tried, using bots and stuff like that to influence things being said on message boards here, so it wouldn't surprise me that they would try to interfere in a Ukrainian election. And that sort of leads to another thing, and that was, of course, the order that Secretary of Defense Hegseth gave on Sunday. To cease, the anti-cyber terrorism operations with Russia, the cyber warfare, rather. I don't get why you would necessarily do that, but
I thought their whole thing was getting rid of, or not getting rid of, but not sending military materiel to Ukraine. Now, that part I did not get. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, don't you say that? For heaven's sakes. If anything, that needs to be watched very closely. Hello, this is how they're waging warfare by cyber. So, boy, that's not understandable. But I was going to say, Churchill was no Zelensky, or shall we say Zelensky was no Churchill. Churchill, I don't believe, was, a corrupt little twit. Oh, excuse me.
I'm not comparing the men, just the situation.
But the situation, yeah. I'd be much more amenable to having Churchill around for a while than Zelensky. I'm just really totally turned off to this guy. And I think a lot of people are. We don't know what his own people think, though, do we? Half of them, or more than half of them, have left the country. They've had to evacuate. So we don't know what they think, or do we? Have you heard anything about what the Ukrainian people think about this whole situation?
No, I have not seen any opinion polling out of Ukraine, so I really don't know. There haven't, to my knowledge, been any mass demonstrations against him. Like, for example, in Israel, you saw demonstrations against Netanyahu during the Hamas war. So I don't think I've seen or at least heard of anything in Ukraine. So I really don't know where his public opinion stands. Although, there have been stories about military-age men, leaving the country to try to avoid the draft.
Right. So where does this go from here? Dr. Antizzo, where do we go from here? Somebody's going to be talking, Vance is talking about Ukraine today, and everybody's talking about Ukraine, but where do you think it goes from here? We have halted our shipments. We don't know about the talks about the rare earth minerals. We don't know where that is. And there's no talk of a ceasefire, so where are we with this, and where do we go?
Mary, that is the $64,000 question.
Let's make it 64 million.
64 billion.
Yeah, inflation.
In any case, I really don't know. My best guess would be that Trump, I think, really is angry with what he perceives as Zelensky's ingratitude. I think he is expecting Zelensky to come back hat in hand and apologize for everything and take the deal, the mineral deal. At this point, I don't know if Zelensky will do it. It does seem that he has a lot of sympathy in Europe. It is my understanding, I just saw an article just before I came into the office that said that the president of Finland put a proposal on the table, although the article credited Lindsey Graham with coming up with this, and I would be interested to hear what your listeners think about this. And that was, okay, you don't give Ukraine NATO membership immediately, but you tell the Russians that if they do invade, it becomes automatically a member of NATO.
Yeah, I remember Finland. Finland, didn't they get kind of rushed into NATO a little bit, and so they were helping Ukraine? But
yeah, the Finns and the Swedes were countries that were traditionally neutral. Matter of fact, during World War II itself, Sweden was neutral. Mm-hmm. But Finland, at the beginning of the war, and this is part of the reason why Finland wanted to join NATO, is that the Russians attacked them in 1939.
Good Lord.
There was something called the Winter War that was in the winter of 39 going into 1940. And if you look at a map of Finland pre-war and a map of Finland after the war, you will see that Finland is a bit smaller than it was. Also, as part of the settlement, the Finns had to accept basically the subordination of their foreign policy to whatever it is the Russians wanted.
And I got to stop you right here. Got to stop you because
to give up some territory for a Russian base.
We're going to a break, and I got other stuff coming up on the other side. You got to go teach a class. I'll bet you we talk on Friday. This is a good thing. Okay. Thanks for joining us today, and let's watch it. And we'll talk Friday. I bet you. It's really welcome back to Mary Wieden You. Yes, we're having a little culture today. Culture. I always say we got to have some culture on the radio. Not just all this other talk. Culture. No, I'm not a New Yorker, but anyway, there's a wonderful event coming up in our musical community that we need to talk about. I've said before, we have such a wonderful arts cluster of people in this state, and locally too. We have musicians, actors, actresses, all kinds of music represented, and people who are really good at what they do. I like telling the stories. Look at the Township Jazz Festival, for instance. I mean, that's wonderful. And I have yet to get up early enough to go and see, we have wonderful people. There's like a jazz band in the Army National Guard, and there's a jazz band at Madison Central. They play, and they're all fabulous. And, those are just, the Madison Central, just kids, but people of all ages take part in our arts. And so we're doing the Mississippi Symphony Orchestra benefit by JSO, the Jackson Symphony Orchestra, today. So there. I can't identify the music because I'm a Chopin devotee. What was that? And I've got, by the way, two people you're going to talk to. Karen Morris, she is the chairman of this gala that's coming up that you should go to benefit the Mississippi Symphony Orchestra. And then Shannon Warnock, she's past president of Jackson Symphony Orchestra and a board member of JSO and MSO. Completely different, but
no, they're actually the same.
The same.
Right. Jackson Symphony League is actually what we are involved in, and we serve as the primary fundraising arm for the Mississippi Symphony Orchestra. Now, many years ago, the Mississippi Symphony Orchestra was called the Jackson Symphony Orchestra, but for the last, basically my whole adult life has been called the Mississippi Symphony Orchestra.
Oh, okay. So this is a pretty big deal because your little sheet says celebrating 80 years of Mississippi Symphony Orchestra on the 80th day of the year, which will be March 21. It's a Friday, so you can all go. If those of you don't work on weekends, you can go to that. And it's at what time in the evening is it going to be?
Starts at 6 o'clock.
6 p.m. And that'll be a perfect time for people to go. And so, interestingly enough, you can't go to Thalia-Mara. So where are you all?
So we're going to be having this gala event out at the Clyde Muse Center in Pearl, and that is on the campus of the Hines Community College campus in Pearl.
And obviously the acoustics must be wonderful.
It's going to be fabulous.
Have you been there for events so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have been there for other events, not for musical concerts, but for gala events and large events where people come and celebrate a variety of things. And we chose that this year because they are very accommodating. It's a large space that can be configured in the ways that we needed to, because we have a variety of things going on for the event this year.
Like what?
Well, Karen's got all the great details.
Goodies, huh?
Well, so this year the theme is A Star is Born, and we are focusing on Mississippi talent, Mississippi vendors, Mississippi products, all of these stars in Mississippi, and especially our symphony musicians. So we are hoping to honor them at this event. So when you come into our event, you'll be greeted with a red carpet entrance, and then you'll get to take your pictures with your loved ones on our step and repeat, just like they do at the Oscars that I know many people watched on Sunday night.
I didn't, but
yeah.
No, they're so tacky. Most of those shows are they're so tacky. Like, well, I watch the Americas.
This will absolutely not be tacky.
No, because this is in Mississippi, and we don't do that.
But we are trying to evoke that old Hollywood glamour. So we are encouraging everyone to pull out a long dress. It doesn't have to be a new dress. You can pull out something that you wore 10 years ago to something. But anyway, we are going
if you
to
can still fit in it.
That's right.
If the darn thing hasn't shrunk up in the closet.
We will have low light.
That's right. But when you enter, you're going to come into the south lobby of the event space, the venue, and we're going to have the silent auction set up, and we're going to set it up like Hollywood Boulevard. So you're going to have storefronts with different.
Wow!
I know, it's going to be fun, and we're going to have different categories. So you'll have a jewelry store, and possibly a travel agency, and a sporting goods store, and a women's apparel, men's apparel, children's, things like that. So we're going to have a lot of different stores. But in that silent auction 1 hour cocktail hour, we're going to have music provided by a well-known pianist in our area, Tyler Kemp, and we are going to have a martini bar, and that's being sponsored by Cathead Vodka and Wonderbird Spirits, both Mississippi companies. And
I love Wonderbird.
Oh, do you love them?
Yeah, I know them very well. They're such great people. I mean, ground up. Yes. Building that business, just like Cathead did. But,
right.
I mean, it's just amazing.
And they are generous, too.
And very generous, very generous.
You better join us, Lance.
That's right. Really. You definitely need to come.
If that crew's going to be there, I think I need to be there.
You're going to love to hear some
Friday
of the other
night.
things that are going to be there. So anyway, and as you walk through our silent auction area, you'll get to see a lot of special things about our musicians, and you'll also get to take your picture under the Hollywood sign. So
sounds like if you're going to have is it going to be painted up? Like, is there going to be like a set almost that you go down so you'll see storefronts?
You will see storefronts, and it will feel like you're walking down Hollywood Boulevard sidewalk.
Well, so that's a lot of artwork there.
We're excited.
That's another part of our arts community that I forgot to mention, the artists.
Right.
I mean, we got some great ones. So somebody who's doing all that, you know, I mean, that's a whole
that's
a whole
one
discipline.
of the things that we are fortunate to be having this event at the Clyde Muse Center, because it is utilized as a very large event and exhibit space. A lot of trade shows are done there. So they are able to provide all of the pipe and drape and things like that we need, but we don't have to bring in tables, chairs, things like that.
Wonderful. But somebody's still got to paint storefronts and things. So
that's right.
But
well, we are working on that with our graphic designer and with our printer. So, and lighting. Lighting does a lot of nice things.
Oh, yes.
But during that 1 hour cocktail hour, we are also having a separate lounge. It's called our VIP lounge. And this year we have named the VIP lounge after our conductor. He is celebrating 25 years with the Mississippi Symphony Orchestra. His name is Crafton Beck.
I can't believe 25 years. I mean, It seemed like he just got here. You know,
I know, and
I think of him as Pepsi Pop.
He seems still so young.
So he's here at the beginning of the century.
Yes, 2000 actually was his first year. And so we have affectionately named this VIP lounge Crafts Club. And so for those who have upgraded to our VIP status, which you can easily do when you buy your tickets, we are having a separate little mini party in the VIP lounge. So that lounge will have a full bar, and we have a lot of other exclusive liquor sponsors in that area, and we will have some extra appetizers for those folks, but also some music provided by the Sessions, which is a jazz ensemble, and it's led by vocalist Candy Lee Jones, who a lot of people in this area adore. She has an amazing voice, and so that's going to all happen at the same time from 6 to 7.
Gosh, and you've been in charge of all this, right?
Yes.
Oh, so Shannon, what about you? You're very much involved in this as well.
I am very much involved in this as well, but I'm definitely more of this year, I would say I'm an advisor.
She's an advisor.
You're president.
A past president of the league many years ago, and I've been on the symphony board for a few years now, and I am definitely an advisor this time around. But that's what happens when you have friends that you can recruit who are good at what they do. All you do is say, "Oh, that sounds great." Oh,
she's a great cheerleader. She is wonderful.
Yes, but you have to find people to do all these things. Yes. That can be, I suppose, difficult. It can be a bit of a challenge, I think, right? Maybe?
Good thing that we go way back. We've known each other for over 30 years, so even when we didn't live here. So it's
you both were out of town at the time?
I was out of actually we both lived in Jackson when we met.
Years
and
ago.
then we moved away, and then we came back.
Yes. But you've been back for a while.
Been
right?
back for
Karen's
11
been
years.
Back 11 years. That's enough time to get into all this stuff. Yeah. When you were here before, were you with the league before?
I was not, because I was very, very young. Pardon me.
Yeah, there's a cough button over there.
Very young, she says. She's still very young.
She was 12.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
But we really want to tell you a little bit more about what's going on after that.
After that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we brought back this year, which because it's an anniversary year, we decided that we're going to have a seated dinner. So this will be very special. People will get to rest their feet for a whole hour. So at 7 o'clock, after the cocktail hour and VIP lounge hour have concluded, we will enter the ballroom, and we want people to feel like they have walked out of a color movie into a black and white movie.
Oh, excellent.
Yes. And so when we go into that seated dinner, there will be reserved tables. People will know that what their table number is when they check in. And then you'll get to sit with your friends, because we're going to work on that with everyone.
How many people can you accommodate?
We can accommodate 300 to 400.
Okay.
We're knocking on 300 right now.
I was going to say I didn't ask this of Lance while we were off the air, but they're wondering if we can put up their website, because it's a long one. It's www. all one word Jackson Symphony League.com if they want to know, because that's a long one to remember.
Right, but thank goodness there are no abbreviations. It's all spelled out.
Yes, but if you could do that, that'd be really good. I wanted to ask you too, how many members of the orchestra are there, by the way?
Right now we have 55 full time.
Oh, I would have thought you would have said a couple hundred.
No, you couldn't fit that many on the stage.
Wow, it seems like it's so much more vast.
It does look like that, because you're considering that the space that an instrument takes up, and the chairs are a little bit spaced out.
You can't have a whole lot of tubas, shall we say?
That's right.
Correct. And sometimes the performances require additional musicians, and that's when we bring in some of the part-time B musicians, or even C musicians is what they're titled based on their contractual agreement. And so sometimes there are more than 55 playing on stage when you're at the performance.
Like maybe Pepsi Pops. That's where everybody, everybody knows Pepsi Pops.
Surely.
And you go and you can see everybody. How many approximately play in that?
70 probably.
Yes, absolutely.
That's amazing. I don't think that's a lot of people. To me, it doesn't seem like, but then
they make a beautiful sound.
Exactly. They make a fantastic sound.
Yes.
Right.
So that's bigger
wonderful.
than they are, for certain.
But one of the things I did want to mention about our seated dinner.
And we're gonna have another break, by the way. So
sure.
We'll have more time. But
You
go ahead.
shut me down whenever that break
No. Well, you'll hear it, because you'll hear music playing
Absolutely.
in your ear.
Okay.
So we are having the dinner catered by Fresh Cut Catering and Floral, and everyone knows them for their superb taste. So we are fortunate to have Wendy Putt, and she has chosen the menu for us.
What's it going to be?
Oh, it's grits and grillades.
Oh,
so it's going to be. She chose because she actually visits California every other year, and she kind of brushes up on the latest trends. So I let her choose it.
Wow,
and,
absolutely, you can't go wrong.
Right, but we're going to have a program. We will have entertainment provided by Capital City Stage Band. Everyone loves Capital City Stage Band. They're the big band type of performers, and everyone loves them.
Who's their conductor?
Bob Davidson.
Okay, he's been with them forever, hasn't he?
Right,
Yes.
right. And but we're going to have an MC, Marshall Ramsey.
Oh, wonderful.
And Marshall is a lover of the arts, and we
yes.
have actually had him MC Pepsi Pops numerous times. And but he is going to MC the program because at 3 points during the night, we're going to stop and have some vocal music. And we are fortunate to have Mississippi's own Katie Ladner, who is a Broadway alum. She's appeared in 3 different Broadway shows, multiple off-Broadway and regional productions in New York. But she will be singing a song for us, and then Candy Lee Jones will come back and sing a song for us, and then Logan Hogue, who is well known in the younger crowd, he's going to be singing as well. So we have a lovely program planned.
Absolutely. And here's that break I was telling you about that music tells us. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes with Karen Morris and Shannon. What's your last name? Warnock. I'm sorry. That's it. Shannon Warnock. We'll be back right in a minute. Anyway, so I've got Karen Morris here, Jackson Symphony Orchestra's Gala chairman. They're having this big thing. It's a wonderful thing. A Star is Born, it's called. The gala is on the 25th of March at the Clyde Muse Center in Pearl. I'm sure you know where that is, right? You can see it right from the from I-20. And then I have Shannon Warnock here. She's past president of the Jackson Symphony Orchestra and board chairman of MSO. Wait a minute,
you were not the chairman. Oh no.
No. You're a board member. Excuse me, board member.
I am a board member, and we have
right.
had some incredible past chairmen, and the chairman we have now is a very effective woman, and so I am appreciative of their efforts and willingness to serve. But it is not my task these days.
Well, this is the big deal. To help out the symphony orchestra, it has to have a fundraiser. I mean, that's just the way that goes in life. And you're calling this one, this is A Star is Born. So I'm wondering, are you going to have like Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper?
Well,
wouldn't that be fabulous?
They may be appearing in some iteration, but not in person.
So you might get to see them. Okay.
We can.
We might have some cutouts.
We might have some viewing.
Yes, there they are. That was an amazing performance of theirs.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean,
and
live.
You're going to get to experience a little bit of the movie musicals as well. So we have a lot of fun things planned. And, as I was speaking about earlier, during the dinner hour, we're going to have these vocalists come in. And some of these vocalists are just outstanding musicians. And we're so happy that they are from Mississippi, and we get to celebrate them while we're celebrating our symphony musicians, who we love to call our stars. But one of the things that everybody has asked me around town when I'm just chatting up with friends and people that I meet is, who's your dance band? Who's your dance band?
A dance band.
And so after our dinner hour, things are going to take a turn. And you can't celebrate the 80th anniversary of anything without having an 80s dance band. Okay. So our 80s dance band is going to be Molly Ringwald's.
Oh.
And so we know that people are going to have a great time dancing with Molly Ringwald. So that dance floor,
the real Molly Ringwald.
The Molly Ringwald. And when that dance floor opens up, we're going to transform the space, and you won't even know where you are at that point. Yes, we definitely want to thank Mike, the party guy, for handling our lighting for us. He's a fantastic.
That's what he's known as,
Mike, the party guy.
I mean, that is an art form. Yes. I must say that's very much an art form.
But we don't have just one lighting guy. We have two. We have Devane Lighting as well. So we have a lot of people to thank. Billy Powell Productions is handling our sound for the evening. So, but after that, we do want people to know that if they are VIP status, if they're the people who have paid that little upgrade charge to enjoy the VIP lounge, they're going to get to go back to that VIP lounge, in and out, do some things. They're going to have some after dinner coffee drinks, things like that. So,
well, I have to ask how much it costs to attend.
It is $175 if you're over the age of 75. 75. Listen, if you're over the age of 35, and if you're under the age of 35, it's $125. Again, there is a little upcharge for being VIP status, but I absolutely think that it's worth it. And so all of that can be seen on our website, JacksonSymphonyLeague.com.
Yes.
On our landing page is the link to buy your tickets. You can also donate a silent auction item if you are interested. And one of the things that I would love to mention when speaking about our silent auction is that's not the only special thing we have. We have a raffle for a set of pearls donated by Lee Michaels Jewelry. an 80-inch set of pearls, 1 inch for every year that we're celebrating.
Wonderful.
And they're worth $10,000. And the
really
tickets are
amazing. Lee Michaels has been so generous.
That is amazing.
Extremely generous to us, and the tickets are only $100 a piece. So even if you can't come to the gala, you can go to our website and just click that button to support the symphony through the raffle. Because I know a lot of people may be out of town. You just don't know what things, when you plan these things a year in advance, you just don't know what's happening on March 21st a year later.
Right.
But the evening is going to culminate with a VIP after party, and at that after party, we're going to have a cigar bar. We're going to have liquor tastings.
Ooh.
We're going to have some more music provided by Logan Hogue with his guitar and some acoustic sound. And we're going to have a special thing that I think a lot of women and some men will enjoy. But Massage Envy has sponsored, and Queen's Reward out of Tupelo have sponsored our Meadmosas. It's a take on mimosas and massages. So you'll get to go in there and maybe get your back massaged, your hands massaged, your feet massaged, things like that at the end of the night, because we know that everybody's gonna party. And
I think feet are going to be big.
feet are going to be very big.
Feet will be very big that night.
Yeah.
So folks, you don't have to know everything about classical music at all.
No.
You don't have to know that, but you can go and have some fun.
Absolutely. And a lot of people always say, well, maybe classical music's not my thing, but I have to say to everyone that you're hearing a symphony play in every movie you watch.
Well, yes, and if people don't realize it, what they thought of as classical music and what we think of as effete or whatever like that, back in the day when this stuff was written and performed in 1700s and on up, that was their rock. And that was their hip hop and their rock and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
EDM. Well, they didn't exactly have EDM in those days because they didn't have any electricity. But it was popular music, ordinary music back then. Now we celebrate that. So don't think that you have to know everything. Like you don't have to know everything. You don't have to know stuff at all.
Speaking of celebrating, I just want to say that the community support for this event has been incredible. And if you don't mind, I'd love to mention some of our sponsors.
I was going to ask you, who else besides?
Okay, so we have, I like to call these our jewels.
Yes.
These are our jewels in our community. And so we have our diamond sponsors. Those are Ergon Foundation and John and Susanna McGowan Timms and Lee Michaels Jewelers, of course. And then we have our emerald sponsors. Those are Butler Snow and Simmons Erosion Control. Then we have our sapphire sponsors. Those include Purine. Everyone knows Purine from the wafers. And Fresh Cut Catering and Floral and Linda Reeves CPA. And then we have our ruby sponsors. And a lot of these are in kind, but these are our cash sponsors that you can thank when you're out and about. We have Community Bank, Caroline and Toby Lowe, C-Spire Foundation, Bradley, Changing History Promotions, Hancock Whitney, Mississippi Sports Medicine, WBA Architecture, that's Weir-Burner Allen Architecture, and Trustmark National Bank.
Wow. Who goes out and solicits all this?
We have a team.
It's a specific team. Of course, everybody anyway. But still, somebody's got to go out and do the actual footwork and say, how would you like to do this?
Right. Well, you would be amazed at what you can do with the computer and Google Drive.
A few things, right?
A few things. But these sponsors are always very generous, and some of these sponsors have been sponsoring our gala and the orchestra in other ways for decades. So we have to truly be grateful that these businesses and organizations are community minded and supporting musicians and music in our community. We're very grateful. It doesn't go unappreciated. Right.
Who are some of these musicians, by the way? Do they strictly work the 55?
That's our full-time musician.
Full-time musicians. So that's what they do. That's all they do. That is their life.
No, absolutely not. They're teaching. They're teaching on the side. They're teaching in schools. They do string instruction. We teach nearly 1,000 young musicians strings each week.
Wow.
So they're doing a lot. They go out and perform over 120 concerts across the state of Mississippi. So we're actually reaching about 75,000 Mississippians with live music every year.
Well, so do they go as a group around, or do they go
separate ensembles? And but a lot of times they'll take most of that full-time group and they'll go to places like Kosciuszko and Vicksburg and Natchez and different places like that.
Well, they have to keep in practice, that's for sure.
Oh, well,
no matter what you do, you got to keep in practice with that.
Yes.
And that's really wonderful. That how long have a lot of them been there?
Oh, some have been there for a good long while. Shanna, do you know?
I
More
think
than
we
20
have
years
some who have been there 30 years.
Right,
Oh, wow.
right.
And Richard Hudson has
Yes.
been with the orchestra for how many years?
I can't remember, but he and his wife both
Yes.
play in our orchestra.
What do they play?
He is French horn. I can't remember what she plays. Do you know?
I believe she's a flautist, but she doesn't play, or oboe.
She might be a
Don't put
okay.
me on the spot.
I know,
Okay,
right?
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I attend the concerts. I'm just not sure I've seen her lately.
Some people don't understand about the staff of MSO. So a lot of our musicians, like Richard, and another one of our strings players, Alex. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, but is it Encinas?
Yes.
Alex, he serves as our coordinator of our education programs, and so a lot of folks don't realize that the symphony is playing for schools that they either visit or the schools come to them at a venue, and they play. And some of these children will never be exposed to symphonic music live in this way, and they put together just absolutely beautiful educational programs for these students. And Alex and Richard both play in the orchestra and work as staff for MSO.
That's so wonderful because kids need to understand that, like I was saying, this is not for snobby people or people who know a lot about. It's not like that at all. It's not la-di-da. It can be if you want it to be, but it doesn't have to be.
Right, and we tell people when
beautiful.
Right, and we tell people when you come to a concert, come as you are. If you have on jeans and you've been out shopping and you say, "Whoa, I want to go to that concert," please come. Don't feel like you do have to go home. I think it's fun to dress up for a concert, but don't feel like you have to go home and change to come to one of our concerts.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
And don't forget about Pepsi Pops.
Oh gosh, yes.
We will have to
When
come
is
back
that
and
one?
promote that.
Oh, when is that going to be?
That's May 9th.
May. Okay.
It's out at the reservoir.
Yes, been there many times. Only by
Yes.
water. Only by water do I go
wonderful.
because it's just there's something magical. That's
It is
really
magical.
the first. It's kind of the first night of the boating season anyway.
Yes.
And it's so great to be sitting out there and you watch. It's like being in a little village with the little twinkling anchor lights. Oh, it's so pretty, and the music is lovely.
And the fireworks.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, you
Absolutely.
two. Thank you so much, Karen and Sharon. Thanks a
you.
lot. March 25.
21st.
March 21st at Clyde
Yes.
Muse.
JacksonSymphonyLeague.org.
.com. There you go. .com or org?
Com.
Com. That's- you got it on com.
JacksonSymphonyLeague.com.
All righty. All right. Thanks an awful lot, you two. Good luck. All right.
Thank you, Mary.
See
Appreciate
you
it.
on Friday.